welcome as well.
Okay. This is Barb, and we're here with David again on Beautiful Mess. We are continuing our talk on self love, and we're going to focus on this podcast on practices. So, David and I are going to share different practices, and we just once again want to let you know this is for, I don't want to say entertainment purposes, but more for just awareness and how we approach it, and just to give you some insight. If you do need a professional help, please reach out and we can assist you, or reach out to a professional in your community. And I'm going to hand it over to David.
Barb, welcome. Thank you. I love practices. This is so fun for me because my whole life has been, for most of it, I didn't even know what I was doing, but I had just created all these tiny little practices and systems and orders of operations. And, it would start out so that I wouldn't lose my keys, or it'd start out so that, I remembered to do this. And now it's so much more. It's about actually just taking care of me.
Right.
So this is fun. I wrote down a question for you. You ready? Are you sitting down?
I'm sitting down. Let's go for it.
Okay. Are there tailored practices or rituals that you believe are especially effective for women in fostering self-love and acceptance?
Yes. And that's for everybody. My go to, and if
Yeah.
you don't know this about me, my listeners, writing. People just kind of go, ugh, like that. But let me tell you, that opened up a deeper part to who I am when I sat down and I started writing. So, what I did is I got a writing buddy or a coach. She asked me questions, and then I would answer them truthfully about my past and just poured. I wasn't trying to impress her. I was just whatever came through, I sent, and I didn't reread it, and I just sent it to her. But this evolved into letting me, one, be seen by a trusted person with her responses back to me, asking me more questions to help me go deeper, and two, to help me to focus on where my hurts are, my fears are, my joy is, and to anchor into those to help me structure who I am, instead of being told who I am, to own who I am. So writing gave that to me, and to be able to express my feelings through writings has just opened up so many doors for me, as you know, and it's just been a joy to be able to share it with people. Not at first, I'm not going to lie. The first time I shared it, my knees were shaking like Jello.
So you're a busy woman. You've got
Mhm.
full-time job. You've got family. You've got commitments. When did you do the writing? When did you find the time or make the time?
I did start writing unbeknownst before the practices with the coach that I did as a teenager, as most teenage girls do. And then I didn't come back to it until actually when I got diagnosed with cancer. I wanted to slow down, and my first thought was, nobody really knows me, and I want to write this down. And that's how that came to be, because I wanted people to know, or at least one person in the world, the writing coach, know who I was, at least to be seen. So if I didn't make it through that journey, that at least I was able to express myself into the world before I checked out of the world.
Wow. Wow. I did something a little bit similar. It was writing based. I just had a book, and I would
Mm-hmm.
write in it, and sometimes there would be three sentences, sometimes there would be 3 pages, but sometimes it was pictures, sometimes there was drawings.
Mm-hmm.
I really tried to just get out of me whatever was confusing, whatever was a stumbling block, or a potential stumbling block.
Right.
I found that as I did that, I would just get this revelation, and I would just feel lighter and
Right.
clarity. I especially started doing it before I go to bed. And
Right.
you know what happened?
Huh.
I would dream of solutions.
Yep.
And I'd wake up in the morning, and I would look at my bedside, and I wouldn't even remember, but I would have written some stuff out
Mm-hmm.
and just gone back to bed.
Right.
This is back in the days when he didn't really have a cell phone, and it was all
Right.
pen and paper. But that was a lovely thing, and it's one of the practices that I created for my clients
Right.
is before you go to bed. I want you to think about all the things that you did today that went really well. Think about a few that didn't go really well, and think about what you would do different.
Right.
Usually, they fall asleep when they're thinking about what would they do different,
Right.
which is a wonderful way to kind of engage the subconscious into the
It is.
master plan.
It is scientifically proven somewhere along one of these studies I read. I can't quote it for you, but they do talk about that when you set an intention before you fall asleep, a question you want to answer, and normally it will come through you in your sleep, in your dreams, or even sometimes it takes a day or two, but it comes through. And writing also, when you write pen to paper, and I don't know about the computer, but I know pen to paper, it has shown that it slows your brain down to focus on what you're intentionally setting into on that paper to give you clarity. And it really does kind of dissipate. So we bring that to the light to dissipate whatever feeling to, that we're working through. And it's such a good way to slow down our parasympathetic nervous system that creates that fight or flight emotion in us, or, reaction.
That's so amazing. Can you tell us another tailored practice or ritual that are key for you for fostering self-love and acceptance?
I was just talking about this today to a group. I do mentor some children. And so we were talking about having what I call quick mantras. So, not like sitting for hours, but like I give you an example. Yesterday at work, I was writing this contract out and I couldn't get my computer to work, but the person's watching me. And I was just like feeling that stress. That's like, man, I can't get through this. And he's watching me. So it was a lot of pressure. And I just said out loud, because I'm so used to doing this, Barb, take a breath. And they're like, what? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so used to doing that. It's my self-talk. I do it in front of people. I'm not embarrassed by it. But having little like quick resets during the day, it's like, take a breath, or you're okay, or, take 4 breaths or something like that. It just kind of resets you in that moment very quickly. So that's a quick one that works really well, but you have to get in the habit of doing it. And then it just becomes a part of who you are and the way you respond to the world and yourself.
Wow. I have one. I'm just looking for it here. I write it out, and it's before I do a coaching call. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if I've coached them 100 times or once. I will be, and this is just very personal. It's just for me. So I say, now think about Barb. She is someone's daughter, and she's been left abandoned, at the very least, not shared the truth with about how business and life decisions are made. And only I have the wisdom to deliver it to her what she so desperately needs. Why? Because I genuinely care about her. I care about her well being, her marriage, her family, her business, her finances, every part of her life. I'm all about restoration, and that is exactly who I am. That's
What
mine.
a That's a great intention, though. What a beautiful way to go into your coaching program. And I usually do a sit down mantra with myself before a client comes in, and then also after they leave to clear it from me, because that's important for that self care, to make sure that we're not holding on to their energy and their stories. Because obviously, when you're coaching, you're very much present with the person, but we also have to trust that they'll move forward with themselves and know that they'll reach out when they need to connect with you. And I trust that they'll do that.
Yeah. I just find sometimes, like, when you're coaching somebody, you're coaching yourself. Like, they're gonna say
Oh,
something
yeah,
like, "Oh, wow," and this just helps me maintain the discipline of who I am when I'm
right.
operating in that role. Uh,
Right. And what an honor it is for people to let you into that space. So, and to remember that it's not to fix, it's to be present with that person. That's what a coach does. And that it's so important to remember. And it's easy to get caught up into different stories when we're invested with someone, especially long term coaching.
yeah, 100%. What about another practice?
Another practice, oh, music. Oh, my goodness. So, for me, I can't speak for everybody, but music, I have to be intentional to what I listen to, because I know now, and now because I've done this for so many years, what music will put me in a certain feeling. Sometimes when I'm writing, I'll have certain songs because I'm like, I want to write about this, but I just can't wiggle it out. And then I'll listen to a key phrase, and if you read some of my writing, if you are a music junkie like me, you'll recognize phrases from songs in there. It's not copywriting. I'm just using the lyric to move the story along, but it really does capture the whole soul of that piece that I'm writing. So music is very powerful. It can bring you up, it can bring you down, it can calm you down, it can take you sideways, left. You know music. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's really good. Two things come to my mind. I just think about how, if we're feeling the blues, why do we listen
Mm,
to sad music? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like Do we
I
want
think it's because we want
to?
to feel it and we don't
Yeah.
know how to tap into it. So it kind of helps you bring it up. So I mean, I'll sit in my car and I'll just be like, "Whoa!" And I'm not a crier, but it happened like 2 weeks ago, and I was listening to this one song, and I'm like, "Wow, that really hit me," and I wasn't expecting it. I was just driving to work, and I'm not even upset, but it was something I was holding, and I was probably on a subconscious level working on it and didn't realize it was still had those little crumbs in there, and it just kind of brought it to the surface so I could release it. So it was such a gift.
I had this moment with my daughter, and this will tie into one of my practices. I had just come from that healing retreat, and immediately I went to see my daughter, and we're driving along and we're holding hands, and we've just got so much to talk about, but we don't know where to start. And I see a school bus drop off some children, and there was a kid, and this kid, like no word of a lie, he was just skipping and talking and dancing, and he was just like, and I looked at him and I looked at my daughter, and I'm like, I want to do that. I never got to do that.
Right.
We both were just gushing, you know what I mean? Like it was immediate. But it reminded me of I was at a conference once, and it was for Tony Robbins, and he was just about to enter the stage, and I could see him backstage, and he was jumping on a rebounder.
Huh.
And I thought, okay, if the big guy, Tony Robbins, has to jump on a rebounder before he gets out on stage, I wonder how much benefit that would be for me.
Right.
So I bought one. It's just a tiny little thing. And
Right.
any time that I was feeling a little blah and I needed to shift that state and shift that energy, just like that kid, he's just got off the bus and he's walking, he's dancing, he's skipping. I just jump on the rebounder. And it's like, I don't think you can jump on that thing without smiling.
Right. It's
Right
like
now, I'm
Tigger.
smiling,
You
you
just
know?
bounce around. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's been
much
fun.
fun.
What about you? Another one.
Oh gosh, I just had one and I lost it when I was listening to you because I got caught up in your story. Oh, that's it. Really understanding when you're sharing with friends, family. It's like that's when people are sharing about who you are and you're getting triggered in some way. I just tell myself mentally, that's not my story. That's not. I don't have to be a character in that story. Or thank you for sharing that story with me, and just reminding myself that I own me fully, and it's okay, and I don't have to prove who I am. And I have those little talks in my head, like if I feel like somebody's coming at me, I'm like, oh, that's about them and not me. And not in a rude way where you hear that, but it's like, oh, they're in so much pain that they don't know how to express correctly or in a loving way for me to hear them. If I was, not recognizing that, to hear them because they want to be heard and they don't know how to do it. So I just remind myself I don't have to be that character in their story. And if I am for them, it's great. They can own it as long as they want. But it's just something I do have to remind myself quite a bit because it's like I'm a recovering people pleaser. So I always want to look good for people. But I constantly have that probably almost every day in my head.
I just saw in my head RPP, Recovery People Pleaser. I love it.
I am. I'm such and I still am, but now I do it with intention
Yeah.
instead of expectations.
Yeah. So self-love, um, tailored practices. One of the things that I do is I walk on a regular basis.
I love
Now,
walking.
I have three places or ways that I walk. One is at the dog park. And at the dog
Nice.
park, all there is hills, scenery. It's beautiful. And, I walk off the beaten path, so I don't usually see a whole bunch of other dogs or their owners.
All right.
It's all nature, and I love it.
Nice.
And that does something for me. The other one I have
Right.
is I'll walk in certain areas, and I'll walk by houses.
Right.
Every single house will remind me of something.
Oh, wow.
And I just use that to process. And what happens is I get like if I see a house and it's a monster house, and I feel a little bit of envy and a little bit
Yeah.
of it causes me to go, well, hang on a second. Why are you envying that? Do
Right.
you have is there something that you need in your life? Do you need this?
Right.
And I just go through this dialogue and I entertain
Right.
it. And
Self curious. Yeah, that's awesome.
but I don't shut down a desire that is unhealthy. I
Right.
process it. Go, why? I wonder why you're doing that. But walking for me has been a lot of fun. The third one is I'll walk in an area that I know very well, and it's just patterns.
Yeah.
When I get into that, I don't necessarily notice the houses as much,
Right. Right.
but it is a thinking walk. It is a walk
Right.
I'm processing things in my brain. But these
Right.
three ways that I kind of walk and love myself and kind of restore myself. Uh,
Right.
does that give you any ideas of another one for you?
Yeah, actually, two popped up, and it's more on the physical side as well to calm the body down. I love to do hot, dry saunas. I do them 2 or 3 times a week. It's just there's something about being in that environment that just kind of sets me and it really grounds me and just kind of resets my day or evening so I can be prepared for the next day. I love sweating. I don't know what it is about sweating, but it just brings all that out in me. And the other thing I love to do, I used to do this all the time, is play my Tibetan bowls and the sound therapy. Sound therapy is so powerful, kind of along with the music, but this is just purely sound and the hertz and I go into deep detail about that in other areas, but there's different hertz for different parts of feelings and bringing things forward for healing. The ancient people in the back, they used to have caves that were sound caves, and they found them now. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but where they would do sound healing for their sick. So it's very powerful stuff, and it's something I did through my cancer journey.
Wow. When I was at a retreat once, the leader of the morning meditation got us to all do this in unison, and it was the coolest sound. It was something I'd never heard before. But imagine the letters V U U U U.
Okay.
So he just got everyone to lift their head up,
Uh
take
huh.
deep breaths, and on the last one,
Oh.
exhale,
Uh huh.
exhale with Voo. And oh my gosh, I
Right.
just you saying that, I remembered exactly where I was
All
and how I
right.
felt. I have to start doing that more often. That's a really good one.
Yeah, it triggers your what's it called, your vagus nerve, and that's the thing that makes you feel warm and comfy and stuff. And that's what that is there for. And different hertz will hit that. It's amazing. They have it on YouTube. You can get it for free. Sometimes I put them on. It's 8 hours. It's in the background, but it
Yeah.
really does make a difference on I'm amazed how much more calm I am when I have that going on, and not being brought into trigger so much. It's very calming. I can speak only for me. It's very calming. It was very effective.
I'm remembering, or I see a picture of a aluminum looking U with a handle, and you hit it. Do you know what
Yeah,
that
those
is?
are tuning forks.
Tuning forks. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and those are awesome too. I've done that as well. So there's different modalities of different ways to hit those. But yeah, for me, it's the Tibetan bowls. I just love them. There's the crystal bowls, and there's different ones. But I just really, my body is just drawn to that. My spirit.
No, I like that so much. Can you give us one more tailored practice for fostering self-love before we wrap it up today?
Well, this one's probably a little bit boring, but it's very effective. And it's really one, staying connected within a community. And what I mean by that, obviously being here on Beautiful Mess, but also how often do you, like I think I shared with you a spreadsheet of every book I've ever read because I couldn't afford for a long time to have coaches and therapists and things like that, but I knew I wanted to move forward. So I went to my libraries and I got self-development books. And like when I wanted to do my business, I started reading about business. I mean, yes, they're not going to get you to they get you to the next step to make connection. Because what happens is you start bringing that into your world expands, and then you start seeing new opportunities that you weren't aware of because of the knowledge you're bringing in. So I always say do at least a minimum of 15 minutes of reading a day and some type of self-development, business, communication, whatever it is that you want to focus on, because it's just going to make you an expert in it eventually.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm always challenging my children to just say, like, just carve out 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night.
Mm-hmm.
It's a half an hour.
Yeah.
In 2 days, that's an hour. Like
Right.
there's a lot of momentum that can be created. So I love that.
Right.
I'm looking outside and I'm looking at a cold plunge.
Ooh.
Yeah, ooh is right. Ooh, ooh with a
Ooh.
capital
Ooh.
O. So I like the sauna. I have an infrared sauna and I have a
Nice.
saltwater hot tub.
Mm.
But I'm one of those turkeys that as soon as I just get warm enough, I jump in one of these cold plunges. And I
Oh,
think it's between 20 and 30 degrees Fahrenheit.
oof.
So I'm pretty sure even Jesus doesn't live in that. It's cold.
No, that's cold. That's pretty darn cold.
But I find it exhilarating. Of course, the first, second, third time, it was so outrageous. You just don't even know what's going on.
Right.
As you kind of learn to breathe and calm yourself down and sit, what it really does for me is it helps me focus. So just when it goes up to here, I don't have one
Mm,
that where my head can be immersed.
yeah.
I have one here. I don't put my hands in right away. They're so sensitive. I feel like pins and needles all over.
Mm,
Just when my body starts to get really cold and I want to get up, I take my hands, I bring them in, move my fingers around, and then take them
mm,
up. All my attention just went to my fingers. I forgot about my body. So what did I just do?
right.
Do you know what I mean?
You set a focus.
Yeah, and it's just it's
Yeah.
challenging myself and my brain to focus on something if something else isn't absolutely perfect. And I'm
Right.
practicing shifting like that. So sometimes I'll focus on my nose, sometimes I'll focus on my ears,
Mm,
but I'm just channeling and channeling and channeling and slowing everything down. So that's a really fun practice for me that
mm,
maybe start with cold showers. It's
right.
the plunge is pretty out.
Right. So, in closing, what I heard you say is that the whole thing, all of these practices are amazing. But when we talk about the physical ones, basically the cold plunge and the dry saunas, that's what we do personally. And I just want to make sure don't go run out and do it if you're hearing us do it. If you're not in good health, make sure you feel, because I don't want you to get hurt either, because you can have, the backside. There's always the backside of the good stuff. So we want to make sure you're safe in it. Um, but yeah, there's so, I mean, and that's just a few that we picked up. There's so many different practices you can do to make everything really good. So it's really when we take control. Oh, I know I was going to say your brain, when you were talking about your brain and your focus. So that's the cool thing about being human, is when we understand, own, and take accountability for the power of our thoughts and how we can control them, because we can, and where we can set our focus. That's all you.
Uh,
And when you realize that's not a reactive but a proactive way, and it's not somebody doing something to you, but you just showing up and however you're doing it, either consciously or subconsciously, man, the power you have to create the life you want. And this isn't about just money and stuff like that. It's about the feeling, sitting in the seat of joy, right? How to do that, how to follow that golden thread to be a part of that. It's all right here, right
yeah.
here.
And it starts with a very small, simple 2-degree shift.
Yep.
One
Baby step.
small
I say baby steps.
baby steps. I love it.
Baby
I love it.
steps.
Well, what I would love to see is when we post this, I'd love to see anyone share what types of practices or rituals they have and that they
Right.
and why that's important to them. But I'd also be interested if they heard anything that we talked about and that inspired them or gave them another idea or something that
Right.
would suit them where they're at,
Right.
you know?
Right. We should call this what practices do you practice for self-love? Because I want to know. I'm curious. I mean, we talk, but I'm curious of what other, I mean, there's so many different ones. It would be amazing to know what works for people, because we're just looking for that thing. You can try things on and take it off. It's like you're shopping for clothes, but when you find it, you find it. Like my Tibetan bowl thing, I didn't find that until I was 46, but when I got it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. But it took a lot of other stuff before I got there. So don't, and what I'm saying is don't stop because one practice doesn't work for you. Keep going, because you'll find it.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, once again, very thoughtful, very encouraging. I got a few ideas. I'm sure you did, and I hope all of the viewers and listeners are blessed abundantly. So thank you very much, Barb, for spending some time with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Peace.